In the icy, unforgiving wilderness of Alaska, where the nights stretch long and darkness feels endless, there are secrets buried beneath the frozen ground. Secrets that should never see the light of day. Imagine a man, an ordinary-looking figure, quiet, unassuming, someone you'd never suspect. But behind his soft-spoken words and mild-mannered smile lurked something unearthly. A shadow that stalked the night, leaving trails of sorrow that remained hidden for years. For more than a decade, women began to vanish without a trace, their fates unknown, their stories untold. Locals whispered of a hunter, but not one that pursued animals. A man who knew the woods like a second home, who had his own private plane, and a dark, twisted game in mind. Tonight, we step into that world, into the depths of Robert Hansen's terrifying legacy. And you might want to leave the lights on for this one. It always starts the same way, doesn't it? The quiet neighbor, the baker down the street, the man who seemed a little awkward but harmless. Robert Hansen was all of these things. A successful bakery owner in Anchorage, Alaska, married with children, known for his love of hunting. But Hansen wasn't hunting moose or bears in those lonely forests. What makes his story so chilling is how normal he seemed. He would smile politely to customers buying bread, attend church, and share hunting stories with friends. But beneath that surface, Hansen was mapping out the darkest of plans. His favorite pastime? Flying his small bush plane over the Alaskan wilderness, vast, empty, and silent. No one around for miles. And it's in those wild places that his darkest secrets were buried, quite literally. By the early 1980s, women in Anchorage were disappearing at an alarming rate. Most were young, some dancers at local clubs, others women just struggling to make ends meet. Among them was Delynn Sugar Frey, last seen in March 1983. Her sudden disappearance barely caused a ripple, until, 2 years later, a pilot trying out new tires on a Nick River sandbar stumbled upon human remains. She was buried as a Jane Doe, her identity a mystery for years. Then there was Paula Goulding, a bright 30-year-old who accepted what she thought was a well-paying modeling job. She was last seen on April 25, 1983. Months later, her remains were found near the same river, carefully buried in a shallow grave. Imagine the eeriness of those woods, the cold wind whispering through the trees, and knowing that somewhere beneath the moss and dirt, the forest was keeping Hansen's secrets. But every shadow leaves a sliver of light. On a cold June morning in 1983, 17-year-old Cindy Paulson found herself facing a nightmare she couldn't wake from. She had met Hansen the night before, thinking he was just another client offering money. But once inside his home, he bound her, silenced her screams, and held her captive. Cindy later described how Hansen drove her to Merrill Field, his private plane waiting, ready to fly her out to a place no one would ever find her. But as Hansen prepared the plane, Cindy saw her chance. She broke free and ran barefoot across the tarmac, chains still on her wrists, toward a busy road. A truck driver, Robert Yunt, spotted her and picked her up. She was shaking, terrified, but alive. Her story would be the key that finally unlocked Hansen's chilling double life. Even after Cindy's escape, it would take months for police to build a case. Hansen was careful, methodical. But when investigators searched his home, what they found made their blood run cold. Hidden behind insulation in his attic was a map, an aviation map marked with tiny X symbols. Each X wasn't just a hunting spot. It was a grave site. 17 marks, scattered across the Alaskan wilderness. With this map, Hansen led authorities to 12 burial sites, though there were others he refused to reveal. Among them were Angela Federn, last seen dancing on 4th Avenue. Teresa Watson, who told her roommate she was meeting a man for a $300 photo session. She never returned. Tammy Peterson, last heard from in a phone call, excited about an offer to pose for photos. Her body was later recovered near the Old Kanik Bridge. And there were more. So many more. Imagine walking through those woods now, knowing how many souls lie in unmarked frozen graves, forever silenced. When Hansen was finally brought in for questioning, the mask slipped. His quiet demeanor gave way to cold, emotionless confessions. He admitted to hunting his victims like wild animals, flying them deep into the Alaskan wilderness, releasing them with promises of freedom, only to stalk them with his rifle. Sometimes if a woman begged and swore she wouldn't tell, he would let her go. But most weren't so lucky. Imagine the sound of footsteps crunching behind you in the woods, the click of a rifle's safety being switched off, and knowing there's nowhere left to run. In the end, ballistics evidence tied bullets found near graves to Hansen's rifle. Faced with mounting evidence, Hansen agreed to a plea bargain, confessing to 4 charges officially, and detailing others in exchange for avoiding a public trial. He was sentenced to 461 years in prison without parole, where he died in 2014. But even in death, many believe some of Hansen's secrets died with him. Some X marks on that chilling map were never identified. As investigators pieced together his horrifying legacy, it became clear that Hansen's bloodlust wasn't just confined to a few isolated incidents. He was a predator who had been stalking Alaska's wilderness for over a decade, and his reign of terror spanned far beyond what anyone could have imagined. The chilling thought that there could still be victims out there, lost in the unforgiving terrain of Alaska, buried in shallow graves beneath the cold earth, haunts everyone who looks into this case. Despite the evidence, despite the confessions, the chilling realization is that Robert Hansen may have never been working alone. There were whispers, even during his trial, that someone else may have helped him. Some believe Hansen had accomplices, people who knew about the killings but chose to remain silent, even as the bodies piled up. Others speculate that perhaps Hansen had lured women to their deaths with the help of people who knew the landscape as well as he did, or who were just as willing to partake in his twisted hunts. The mystery of his accomplices, if they exist, only deepens the terror surrounding the case. Was Hansen truly a lone wolf? Or was there someone else out there, still lurking in the shadows of Alaska's vast wilderness? Authorities couldn't say for sure, and even as they scoured the forests for further clues, questions remained unanswered. When Hansen died in 2014, some believed it was the end of the nightmare, but others weren't so sure. The true number of victims could never be known, and the full story may never be told. Each time investigators thought they'd uncovered all of Hansen's secrets, another twist emerged. Another X mark waiting to reveal a forgotten victim. Years after his death, Robert Hansen's map still draws attention from those obsessed with solving the mysteries of his dark legacy. The haunting possibility that there are still bodies buried deep in the Alaskan wilderness, waiting to be found, looms over this case like an unsolved riddle. Authorities suspect up to 37 women may have fallen victim to his horrifying game. Today, Robert Hansen's story lingers like a ghost over Alaska. His chilling methods have inspired films, documentaries, and television episodes, but nothing compares to the real terror he brought. Standing near the Nick River, if you listen closely, some say you can still hear the wind howling through the trees, and wonder just how many voices it carries. But here's where things take a disturbing turn. When police reviewed Hansen's map after his death, they found 3 mysterious marks near Resurrection Bay, marks Hansen never explained. Could there still be victims waiting to be found? Bodies still lost in the frozen wilderness? And perhaps the most unsettling question of all, was Hansen truly alone? Or did someone help him? Because to this day, no one knows for sure. So if you ever find yourself in the wilds of Alaska, far from civilization, with only the sound of the wind in the trees, be careful. You might be walking right over one of those forgotten graves. If this story sent chills down your spine, let me know in the comments below. Do you think there are still secrets left buried in Alaska? And if you were investigating Hansen's map, would you dare to search for those missing X marks? Make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more chilling tales like this one. And remember, sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones who hide in plain sight.